This meeting is called to order. The special meeting of the Township Council is called to order in accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975. Be advised that adequate notice of the special meeting of the Township Council of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, was made by the posting on the bulletin board at the municipal complex and transmitted to the officially designated newspapers, indicating that this special meeting would take place at the Franklin Township Municipal Complex at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, March 7, 2017. In addition, a copy of this notice is and has been available to the public and is on file in the office of the municipal clerk. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States Republic for which it
stands, one nation, under
God, indivisible, with liberty. Madam Master Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Chase, Councilwoman Francois. Here. Mayor Kramer.
Here.
Councilman Onijaka.
Here.
Councilman Prasad.
Here.
Councilwoman Robinson. Here. Councilwoman Sherman. Here. Councilman Vasanella.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Wright.
Thank you. So this is a special meeting about sidewalks. I'd like to welcome Christina Danielson and Nancy LaCourte, our school board members. This is an item that is near and dear to Deputy Mayor Wright's heart. He has worked hard on this, and I believe he deserves the honor of running the remainder of the meeting. So I'll hand it over to you.
First up, I would like our consultants.
And since you have the you frequently just remember something after you finish talking, I'll do that to you. I just want to apologize in advance. I am on call tonight, so if someone's talking and I grab my phone and run out of the room, it's to handle that. Not please don't take it personally.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wright. I'm going to just immediately turn this meeting over to Rob Russo, our consulting engineer from CME on this project. They've done all the work, and they can take us from A to Z on what this project entails. So, Mr. Russo?
Thank you, Mr. Warnlocker. Like I said, my name is Rob Russo from CME Associates. I'm here with Darren Mazzi, also from CME. We were authorized by the township last year to prepare plans and specifications for the 2016 sidewalk improvements. The general scope of the project entails installing approximately 14,000 linear feet of 4-foot wide concrete sidewalk on one side of 4 roadways, which I'll go over in a minute. It also includes the installation of handicap ramps at all the roadway crossings throughout the project limits. No new curb is proposed except where required for the handicap ramps. Other improvements will include driveway aprons where the sidewalk crosses existing driveways, site clearing, which includes some trees and other obstructions in the way of the sidewalk, and restoration work. The roads that are included in the project, I don't know how clear you can see them up on the board. The first road is Belmar Avenue, and like I said, the sidewalk is being installed on one side. On Belmar, it's the south side, which is this side of the road, from Franklin Boulevard to Abbott, and that's approximately 2,200 linear feet. The second road is Dutton Street, also on the south side. Dutton Street is, the limits are from the athletic fields here up to LeBay Drive, and that's about 1,755 linear feet. The fourth road is Girard. Girard goes from Hamilton down to Hillcrest, Belmar. It starts out on the east side from Hamilton down to Fowle, and then switches to the west side for 1 block to Gold Street, and then switches back to the east side down to Belmar. The last road is Hillcrest Avenue, and the limits of Hillcrest Avenue are along the east side from Hamilton Boulevard down to Arden. I'll quickly take you through the plans. They're a little difficult to see up on the board here, but the first plan sheet is Belmar Street, and like I said, it goes from Abbott to Franklin Boulevard along the south side. You can see we have, it's tough to see up on the board, but we have photo locations throughout the street with numbers on it, and we do have existing photos, so if you want to take a closer look at what's happening out there now, we could go to that slide and look at it. You can see there's handicap ramps proposed at each intersection on the south side. There's crosses where we believe trees will have to be removed. We were conservative during this preliminary phase to show trees that we really thought may come out. During the grading phase of the project, we may be able to save some of the trees, but this is a more conservative approach of what we think is going to come out at this time. We tried to keep the sidewalk a minimum of 2 feet from the edge of pavement to provide a separation between the pedestrians and vehicles. We typically like to see a further distance than that, but the area is very tight. There's a lot of existing structures and trees, so we tried to keep it as tight as we could to limit the disturbance. We also provided a slide with an ortho overlaid, so you could see a little better what's going on with the existing conditions. And that's also Belmar Street. The next sheet is Dutton Street. And like I said, Dutton Street goes from Labed to Hillcrest and then extends to the athletic fields another 200 feet. It's generally on the south side of Dutton Street, except for when we cross Hillcrest, we move to the north side just to connect to the athletic fields. Similar situation, we show what trees we think will come out for the construction. We show the handicap ramps at each of the road crossings, new driveway aprons, and restoration work. The next street is Girard. Girard is actually the longest street. It's over a mile long. It starts at Hamilton Boulevard. Similar situation. It's on the east side. As I mentioned before, as we get down to Farrell, due to houses being close to the roadway, we move to the west side for 1 block. We look at the next sheet. So we continue on the west side to Gold, and then cross back over to the east side for the remainder of the road down to Belmar.
What do the X's on the drawing represent?
The X's on the trees represent trees that we feel will have to be removed in order to install a sidewalk. There's also another symbol with an X with a circle. That's a tree we think we could save, but we typically will have a tree expert look at the root system when they come in and excavate for the sidewalk, and if they feel they could keep it in place, we'll leave the tree. Hillcrest starts at Hamilton Street on the east side and continues down to Arden. There is some existing sidewalk on Hillcrest. A lot of that sidewalk doesn't meet the current ADA regulations with regard to the 2% cross slope, so we are showing most of that sidewalk to come out and be replaced. There was a small area that didn't meet the regulations, but for continuity, it might be best just to take that out. That's just north of Holly Street. There are some utility poles that will need relocation. There's approximately 9. We've been in contact with PSE&G. We sent them the plans. They're reviewing them now, and will be back in touch with us to let us know what the time frame is for that. There are also 5 fire hydrants that will need to be relocated. That will either be done as part of the project or ahead of time. The total square footage of sidewalk is almost 50,000 square feet, with about 17,000 square feet of 6-inch concrete aprons. We estimate that the contract time to be approximately 60 days for substantial completion and 75 days for final completion once the contractor starts.
For what scope of work are you referring to? The whole
Concrete
thing?
sidewalk, yes. It's just concrete sidewalk.
Every one of these?
And that will, poles, telephone poles will be removed and put
hydrants,
back, fire
trees.
hydrants, trees.
Well, I believe the fire hydrants will be relocated prior to
Mailboxes.
construction, and also the utility
What
poles.
he's saying is that upon award of contract, which means all of the preliminary work, meaning the relocation of, we, the Township of Franklin, do the relocation of fire hydrants. So I would, to be perfectly honest with you, how many was it, Rob?
There are 5 fire hydrants.
That's 5 days. That's one crew, 5 days, those fire hydrants are moved. It's one hydrant per day. We do this fairly often. And the answer as far as the utility poles are concerned is we would not start this project until Public Service makes a commitment and moves the utility poles that need to be moved. Otherwise, the rest of the work is done by the contractor, and I think that's a fair estimate of 75 days for completion.
And how many houses are going to be affected by this? Do we know? Driveways,
Off the top of,
sidewalks?
I don't have a number off the top of my head.
there's about 300 homes that 300 properties that these sidewalks run in front of. There's about 300 notices went out on that side, more than 300 actually.
I have a question. You mentioned the handicap ramps, the driveway aprons, clearing of trees, restoration of work. And when you have to cross over and go to the opposite side of the street where you're starting and stopping sidewalks, will there be crosswalks for the children for safety? I didn't hear
Yes,
that.
there'll be crosswalk.
On Belmar, on the north side of Belmar, there's a lot of township-owned properties without houses.
And the reason why it wasn't chosen, Councilman, is because as you get further towards Franklin Boulevard, there's a significant slope that would have to be, we'd have to create a retaining wall and what have you, and there's also wetlands along that property, and the schools that are intended to be served are on the where the proposed sidewalks are. There would be no crossing of Belmar Street. They would come from the neighborhoods and go down and make the right-hand turn up towards the middle school, so that it was put on that for all of those reasons. There was a considerable amount of thought on Belmar Street as to which side of the road it would go on.
Okay, of course, you answered my question before I finished asking it.
This was one that we had a great deal of discussion about. And we anticipated that very question because we own that land on the other side. So, yes.
Any more questions for the council of our construction engineers?
I don't have anything. If council has no questions at this time, that's, I'm sure there'll be additional questions as a result of public input. And so I guess my suggestion would be we have an opportunity to listen to what the public has as far as questions are concerned, and then we go back to the consultant to answer those questions, or we answer those questions as they're asked. That'll be at your direction as we do that. So.
Do I have a motion to open up for a public session?
Moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded that we open up for a public session.
All in
I
favor?
need a roll call or something? Nope.
All in favor?
All in favor? Aye. All those opposed? We're now open for a public session. What I would like is that everyone that would like to speak, please come up to the microphone, state your name and where you live. 3 minutes, 5 minutes, Mr. Mayor?
That's your call.
Spell out the last name just for the record.
Go for it. 2? At a special meeting, it's usually 2 minutes, okay. You're the first one up.
How you doing, council? My name is Roger Griffin. I live at 297 Girard Avenue, Somerset, 08873. Been a resident there since 1963. I'm one of 9 children that graduated this township's school system successfully, and I even have a special needs child here that's with me, that's with the district. I don't see where this proposal, it just comes out of the blue. It makes no residential sense to me. I know I was late. These people here beat me a few minutes late, but is this for the proposal of the sidewalk? Right. I'm in opposition. I can remember when this was a dirt road. I don't see where the benefit for me or my neighbors, and I represent some of them too, that they are not present. I see some that are. I can't understand it, and I just want to let you know on the record that we oppose it.
Council, if I could just interject here, on your set of plans that you have in front of you, the house numbers are circled on each individual lot. So, like in that case of that gentleman, this is the section of Girard Avenue that includes the cross street of Clinton Street, and you'll see to the left, lot 37 is number 297. It's kind of like right in the middle, right above, just to the left of the word plan.
I see it.
So if the address is given, you can look at the individual street plans and see where that house lies on the plan.
Yeah, my name is Greg Richardson. I live at 327 Girard Avenue. And I was just saying that the way the consultant was telling us how the sidewalks was going to come down Girard Avenue, going to get people hit by cars. You're going across the street, over this side, over that side. Nobody wants this sidewalk. It's going to get forced on us. And you said 300 houses is going to be affected? That's what you said, right?
Yes.
But those are 300 votes that I'm going to get when I run for mayor of this town. You know what I mean? Because this is garbage. It is. I've been living here for 20-something years. My kids went to Franklin High School. They went to junior high school. We never had sidewalks. It's a country kind of atmosphere area, and all of a sudden now you want to come there, tear up our property, tear up everything. Kids don't walk on sidewalks anyway. They don't walk on sidewalks. You ride down the street, there's sidewalks all up and down the street over there in the Levitt area. They're walking in the street. And so you should take this money and use it for something else instead of forcing it on residents, because most of the residents on Girard Avenue are senior citizens. So now when it snows, they got to go out there and shovel their sidewalks. And if they don't shovel them, then you're going to come by and find them. This is unrepresented government, you know, and this is what this is. And so I was told we're going to get it anyway. That's what I was told. We're going to get it anyway. And besides, there ain't that much foot traffic between Girard Avenue and Dutton and all. There ain't that much foot traffic. But we're going to be forced to have these sidewalks anyway. I'm just wondering, is there a payoff here? Somebody getting political contributions? You know, because if the sidewalks is going to be forced on us, the township's going to pay for it. Put sidewalks on 27 from Churchill Avenue up to Veronica. More people walk up in that area than they do on Girard Avenue. And that's more dangerous. And I just don't think this is fair. You know, and then after somebody told me, oh, your tax is not going to go up. No, they're not going to go up this year, but they're going to go up some years from now, because now the sidewalk's going to be figured in and this is going to be figured in. You know, you should come to the people. Nobody in this room came down to the township and said that we needed sidewalks. Not one person. Was somebody in here in this office that said that they wanted sidewalks. They didn't come talk to the residents. You didn't go door to door and talk to the residents and see what the residents wanted. It's unrepresented government. That's what this is. And, you know, it's a shame. It's a travesty. That's what it is. Because now we're going to be forced to have this. I can understand on certain roads, but Girard Avenue, there's no foot traffic. There's not much foot traffic on Girard Avenue. My kids, they grew up there. There was no sidewalks there. All of a sudden, there ain't that many kids in the neighborhood now. You're going to put sidewalks. And then when the high school was there was more foot traffic when the high school was there, and sidewalks never went up. But now there's a junior high school there. The kids' parents pick them up in the parking lot, and very few kids, minimal amount of kids, walk through the area. And most of them, when they walk through they live in the area. So, you know, I just want you to know that I voiced my opinion against this idea, and I think the township should save the money and put it where it needs at, somewhere else. That's what I think. From there, we'll see.
Hello, all. My name is Tawana Cotton, and I am also a Girard Avenue resident. I am a 194 Girard Avenue. I am neighborly. I have a lot of children on my block, in my driveway. They have no place to go. They can't ride their bikes. My son is in middle school. He has to walk. If it's less than 2 miles, you have to walk to school. Franklin had a devastating travesty, a middle school, before he started school this year. It brings, I want to cry. He was hit by a car and killed one of Franklin's children because we didn't have a sidewalk. I understand we have seniors. I understand we have people that don't want it. But I do. I have been here for 10 years. When I moved here, I was told that it was going to happen by the previous owners. I said to my husband, I don't know. We have an 11-year-old and we have a 13-year-old now, 12 rather. And I said, I don't know, this looks dangerous for them. And then when we lost Andrew this year, well, last year, it was devastating. I can't even imagine, but I know her. I am very involved in the school district, the PTO, the PTSO, and so is she. Think about that parent who lost a child because we didn't have a sidewalk. I understand how you guys feel, but it's devastating that we lost a child. He was riding his bike. So you all, everyone here, he was killed. He was 13, he was going to the 8th grade. And it's devastating to see people upset because they're putting in a sidewalk. This is for our children. It's for the children of Franklin. It's for the middle school kids. That's where the idea came from. No one's getting paid off. If my child walks to school and the other children, I'm sure you guys, Girard Avenue 194, you see all those kids in the driveway. If you live there, you've seen it. You probably had to ride around because they're getting close to the street. There's no sidewalks. Then someone comes to this meeting, complains, and they had the sidewalk sidewalk that had the hump in the road, that was taken away for the people speeding down Girard Avenue. So Arden and Girard is a speedway. So what do you expect? You got the kids, and there are many children that use Girard Avenue as their walkway to and from school. If you're a middle school child and you're less than 2 miles, you have to walk. Yes, we're picking them up because we don't want what happened to Andrew to happen to our child. Yes, I live up the street, but I go to school and get them because I'm afraid. I watch the people drive. You're in a rush, people are looking at their phones. I look at it all the time out of my window. I'm sorry if I've taken up too much time, but I am compassionate about this. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Roger Griffin Jr.'s third-generation grandchild of my father. He's been in the district, bust. He's got cerebral palsy and autism. We've never had a sidewalk. If you put in a sidewalk, you'll literally be walking past my bathroom window. I don't need that invasion on my property after everything that I've been through. Out to the council.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mercy Equerre. I live on Irvington Avenue by Belmar. It's about time we have the sidewalk on Belmar. But my concern is regarding the structures that had been put up.
Excuse me, can we just show some respect here? Everyone needs respect, please.
Okay. My concern is regarding the structures that had been put up by individuals. The county has, or the township has said something about removing or relocating trees. Cutting down trees and relocating the fire hydrants. What happens to the fences that had been, I don't know how wide that the sidewalk would be, and by 2 feet, I suppose I heard, away from the road. Might come a little close to individual fences. I have a fence around my house. And I have other individuals that have fences around their houses. It's for protection. And my other concern is the crossing on Belmar and Irvington. Is anything going to be done about that junction? Because there's a lot of accidents happening on that junction, causing property damage and other things. Well, so far we've not had death yet, but there is a lot of property damages. Crossing over to 203 Irvington Avenue, which is my home, I would like to know what would be done to those. Thank you.
If council wants, some of these questions can be answered right away. Like that lady's questions I can answer.
No.
I just need to add, ma'am, why don't you come back up to the microphone really quickly? So what number do you live at? 203. 203 Irvington.
Yes, sir.
Which is not at the corner,
It's
correct?
at the corner of Belmar and Irvington.
It's at the corner of Belmar and Irvington?
Yes, sir.
Are you lot number 7? Do you know, is that your lot number?
I think lot number 7.
You're at the corner closest to Franklin Boulevard, on that corner.
North end.
Right, okay. Rob, is that one with a fence? Can you
Yes,
see?
sir. Yes, sir.
Is the fence in the right-of-way?
Yes, sir.
Well, if the fence is in the, you're bringing up the picture, Rob? If your fence is on the right-of-way line itself, then there will be no reason to relocate the fence. If your fence is within the right-of-way, which means it's not on your property, it's on our property, then it would have to be moved. So, and until there's a survey done, and you can see that's the property right there. Rob, as you look at the plan, that was one that you found that it looked like it was right on the right-of-way line?
Yes, it's pretty much right on the right-of-way line. It appears to
So
be.
the sidewalk would go right up against the fence in that particular
Yes.
case? So that
Now, who moves the fence? Who will move the fence?
We don't believe that your fence will have to be moved.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. If your fence is not on our property, on the township's right-of-way, then it won't need to be moved. It's only those fences that were installed improperly on the right-of-way that would have to be relocated. We believe that your fence, without a formal survey, falls right on the right-of-way line, so it was installed properly and it would not need to be moved, that there's adequate space there with the relocation of that utility pole to put the sidewalk in without having to move your fence.
Thank you. The utility pole, you did mention that the PSCNG is working.
That's what we're working with Public Service to see the moving of the pole.
Now, my next concern is on the junction. Is anything going?
Well, so there's no plan for anything with the intersection
Because we put, if you look through the picture again, there are two big boulders that we put on because cars were running into the property. Every time there's an accident, it comes through, short of hitting the house. So,
ma'am, I understand that there may be issues, but this project is not to address intersection issues. This addresses sidewalks. If there's some reason for us to look at some form of intersection improvement, we can do that as well, but that's not part of this project.
I'm only concerned because with the sidewalk, much as we want it, it's going to have a lot of traffic. And I think the township has to do something.
And I'll take that under advisement. I can't dispute what you're saying. I can't agree with it. I can't say you're wrong. We've not looked at the intersection at all as part of this project. All we've done is look at the installation of sidewalks. So that's what I'm saying. We'll make a note and we can look at the intersection and see if there's some improvements that we can make there as well, but not as part of this project.
I appreciate that.
Okay?
Thank you.
All right.
Well, Bob, will we have painted crosswalks continuous with the sidewalk?
So there would be a crosswalk across Irvington in this particular circumstance.
Exactly. I think that's what she's asking.
But no, I think she's saying that there's an issue with Belmar as well, and we wouldn't do a crosswalk on Belmar at every intersection as well. Just to connect the sidewalks, we would paint crosswalks. But there might be some other issues if there's a need to put a boulder on your corner, then there's probably another issue at hand here, maybe a sightline issue or what have you that we can take a look at.
Marion Hill, and I live at 149.
Can you speak in the mic so we can hear you, ma'am?
My name is Marion Hill, and I live at 149 Dutton Street, and I don't agree with the sidewalk. It's not very many kids there. My kids are all grown and gone, so I just don't approve of it, and I don't have anybody to clean snow and all this kind of stuff in front of my house. I don't have very much front yard there in the beginning. So I also work for the Board of Education. I work down at the middle school. And I just don't agree with it at all. I really don't. So that's the only thing I have to say.
Ma'am, and just so you understand the full project, there's no sidewalks proposed in front of your house. They're proposed across the street from you.
Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is James Simmons. I live at 310 Hillcrest Avenue. I've lived there for 45 years. I lived there when there was a high school. We needed sidewalks for the high school too. I would pay a lot more taxes to bring one kid back that was killed. This lady here was passionate about this child being killed. If we had sidewalks, then that child would still be here. I have spoken with the councilman of my district, from Nancy Henry to the gentleman right here, about sidewalks. I brought up 2 kids on Hillcrest Avenue. And when the high school was there were older kids, and they had, to stay out of the way of the cars, they could do it. We have middle school kids there, younger kids. On my street, even school buses come by at 50 miles an hour. And somebody, it's just a matter of time before another kid gets killed. And I would shovel snow, and I'm 77 years old, to save a kid's life. And we need sidewalks there. Thank you.
Good evening, Bill Connell, 25 Spring Street. This is going to be redundant after that, gentlemen. As a child, I was clueless, but so I have to be honest about that. Over the last week, after the last week, I've gone around and driven the streets at different times of day and looked at what's happening and see what, from my observation, what the need is. And in fact, they are tight roads. They are speedways. They cross, a big chunk of the northern part of town. And I think it's really important that you actually have the sidewalks. But this morning in particular, there's kids waiting for a school bus, and they're all sitting around looking at one cell phone. Where are they? In the middle of the street. They're all like having a little clutch in the middle of the street. So whoever said you could put the sidewalks there and the kids won't use them, who knows? But I think it's your responsibility to put them there. The other thing, listening to the comments, people say there's no kids around me now. These things are going to be here for 50 years, okay? Things run in cycles, okay? So you have a responsibility to not just today, but tomorrow. And I think these will just overall be very important assets to the town. The other thing is you do have to be respectful to the landowners. Do everything you can. You damage their property, you fix it, you make it as nice as possible within reason. That is your responsibility. But the fact is, these should have been put in 30 years ago, and it wasn't done, and now you have the will to do it, and I support it. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Toby Metal. I live at 377 Girard Avenue. I am in support of the sidewalks on Girard Avenue. I have 2 young children that attend Sampson G. Smith School. They catch the bus at the corner of Farrell and Girard. There's another bus stop at the corner of Berger and Girard. So there are a number of children throughout the street that catch the bus. I'm very concerned. When I purchased my home on Girard, it was about 12 years ago. I didn't have children at that time. But since I've had children, it's always been a concern of mine regarding the sidewalks when they go outside to play. A separate issue is the speed, that a lot of the vehicles travel along Girard. They go at a top speed, and we also have an ambulance that is also, traveling on that route. But I'm always concerned when they go outside to play. I try to make sure that they're in the backyard. But they should be able to enjoy all aspects of our property. So in addition to just day-to-day quality of life, living, I'm, again, concerned about them as they're going to and from school, catching the bus, and just day-to-day. So again, I just want to emphasize the safety, the concern that I have for the children in the area, my own children, and I'm in support of the sidewalks. Thank you for your consideration.
Hi, Christine Danielson, 49 Marcy Street. I'm on the Board of Ed. I'm also a parent of 3 students that attend the Franklin Township Public Schools. I would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to come up and speak out in favor of anything that can make the area safer for our children. Not just the children, everyone that lives in that community could benefit from the sidewalks. So if it saves one life, if it keeps one child from walking in the middle of the street to go to school, then these sidewalks do benefit our community. Thank you.
Hi, it's Robert Zisk, 339 Girard Avenue. I lived there for 62 years. I'm outside all the time. If I see 10 people walking up and down Girard Avenue, that's a lot. I don't know, somebody thinks of these things and just shoves it down. How many millions of dollars are you going to spend on this? We need other things in this township that we don't have. I don't understand what's going on. What happens, like, if you have a sidewalk going out to the road? Is that just going to be demolished? Can you answer the question? Maybe you ask the other.
If there's a structure in our public right-of-way, it'll be removed. If it's on your private property, there'll be no reason for us to touch it.
Who fixes, when they put that sidewalk in, who's going to manicure that to your yard? My yard is on a big hill.
Okay. So, I mean, I'm looking at your property here. Your question is about a sidewalk out to the street.
Yes. That's one question. The other question is, the way the hill goes down, is that going to be manicured to fit in, to look like it should, or is it just going to be left?
Yeah, it'll be restored back to the slope down to the sidewalk if your yard is sloped. Is that the property, Rob?
Yep.
I believe that's the property, yes.
Yeah, the gray house.
Okay.
I just don't understand why people think of things and then just all of a sudden we're going to do it. I've lived there for 62 years. When high school was there, we needed a sidewalk because the kids used to race up and down the street. We called the cops one time to have them sit in my driveway. They came at 10 o'clock and left at 2. School started at 8, got out at 3. But that don't matter. It's Girard Avenue. Now everybody's worried about Girard Avenue. Thank you.
Yes, Candy Lewis, 30 Belmar Street. I'm trying to figure out how this will affect me. We don't have much traffic on Belmar, but we do have a lot of speed. So rather than you put a sidewalk in, I would prefer bumpers. As well as, for the walkers that we do have, we do get a lot of debris on Belmar. So I would prefer you to put more money into the cleaning of the area and give me some speed bumps. But I am definitely not in agreement on Belmar Street to have sidewalks. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Larry Butler, and I live at 407 Girard Avenue. I've been living there since 1978, and I support sidewalks 100%. There's kids cross my lawn every day there's a bus stop at Girard and Berger. They walk across my lawn because there's no place else to walk across but in the street. But I do support speed bumps because cars and school buses speed through there exceeding the speed limit, sometimes 50 miles an hour. And that's about it, but I'm 100% support sidewalks. I don't mind getting out there shoving my sidewalk to keep it clear of snow or any other debris. I support it 100%. Thank you.
Hey everyone, my name's Li Chundang. I'm 34 Belmar Street. I have been here almost like 14 years.
Excuse me, could you pull the mic down so we can hear you better?
All right, so yeah, my kids already graduated before we move in here. About sidewalk, if can help save kids' life, so I'm 100% support. And also, I think one thing we can do is, as my neighbor in 30 Belmar Street said, we can put some speed bump there. That's less cost. And also, we can do immediately a speed limiter. Right now, it's 30 miles. So people like 30 miles, they drive just 50 miles. I think this council should consider put speed limit there immediately. And the speed bump is also a good option. Thank you.
So I feel the need to address this particular street and those particular issues that were just raised, because there are some things that I have some, they say, local knowledge on. The speed limit is 30 miles per hour on Belmar Street. It used to be 40 miles per hour. It was 40 miles per hour when the homes that gentleman and the lady who was just before him at 30 Belmar, when those homes were built. Prior to those homes being built, the speed limit was 40, and there was a great deal of turmoil once those houses were built and occupied about the speed limit. And at that particular time in my career, I was the traffic sergeant in the police department. And I received all those complaints from the residents who lived along that section of Belmar. And we in the Traffic Safety Bureau and the Police Department worked very, very, very hard on Belmar Street, because the law does not permit us to just come in and randomly change speed limits. There's a procedure that needs to be followed, and we did all that we could. In fact, Belmar Street is the very first street in Franklin Township to receive any type of traffic calming whatsoever. Prior to the homes being built, it had no shoulder lines. Those lanes were narrowed down to 11 feet, which is 1 foot narrower than standard. Shoulder lines were painted, and a great deal of work was done to try to get people to slow down on that street. One of my great frustrations when I was the traffic sergeant was that sidewalks were often waived by our planning board because they didn't connect to things. In this particular case, those homes that were built on Belmar Street, the builder got a waiver to build those sidewalks and didn't have to build those sidewalks. There was originally identified a need, and I argued that my case and lost my argument as to the need for those sidewalks then. If you saw that, I was whispering back and forth with the engineer, Tom Zelnick, next to me. We talked about Belmar and Hillcrest and Girard perhaps being good candidates for speed humps, which has been mentioned here as well. And certainly if there are people here who live on those streets who are interested in possibly having speed humps installed on those streets, my suggestion is that they reach out to our engineering department, and there's a process for that as well, and that we can look at those streets for that type of application as well to try to address some of the speed concerns there. So.
Question?
Yes.
Just to follow up with that.
Sure.
Where we're putting sidewalks in, or where it's proposed to move forward to put sidewalks in, and there's no curb, we will or will not be putting a curb line?
No, there's no curb installation in the
I
project.
don't think, I just want to be clear. So just to clear up, unless something changed, where we do not have curbs, my understanding is it's not possible to have a speed bump.
Depends on the drainage that's in place. It's all about the drainage, and it depends on what the drainage is, and we have to look at each individual street on an individual basis.
Because I know this isn't about speed humps. I just want to be clear so people don't walk away with the wrong impressions.
That's why I say that we can discuss that, but there's a policy and a procedure in place.
Right,
and
I
we
know.
would discuss that, but they would be
together.
encouraged to reach out to the engineer about that.
Okay, thank you.
I just have a quick question for clarification. Are the sidewalks going to be flush with the street?
Well, there won't be, there'll be a grass strip.
There'll be some grass between
yes.
the sidewalk and the street. Thank you.
Dr. Chase?
I just wanted to ask, when was it that the planning board didn't require sidewalks? Am I guilty?
Well, that development was built probably about 1999, 2000. So,
Okay.
So are you off the hook, Councilman?
No.
I wasn't going to throw you under the bus, Councilman. You brought it up, but no. So that was a fight, and I lost. And years later, I won that fight with the same developer on another street where they were built, and I'm glad that they were built. Not that they're connecting to these particular sidewalks, but I do know that those sidewalks in the other development that he built are used. I see people walking on them fairly frequently. It's in close proximity to our public works garage.
What I would like to do now is go back to the podium. Yes, sir.
Steve Curlew, 330 Girard, also on the corner of Dutton. Now, you're saying there's not going to be any sidewalks, and I believe that sidewalk, or not curbs, I'm sorry, and that's my corner there. Now, my garage, I think I only own about 8 inches from my garage to where your sidewalk is going to be, and I've already got lots of mud where cars drive off the road there.
Put
So
a
if you're
picture up,
saying,
please.
if you're saying there's going to be no curb, then you're going to have 2 feet of mud. Now, I've got a young child, and I'm for the sidewalks, but this doesn't sound right.
Can we put a picture up, please? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know if you
Girard
heard me.
and Dutton. And I'm assuming one of the fire hydrants is going to be the one on my corner, which I'm okay with.
He's looking at it right now. Is that it?
Yeah, you can see the stretch where the wood is. That was there when I moved in. But that's all mud from people pulling off the side of the road there to avoid cars. So if you're proposing putting in a sidewalk there, cars are going to be driving off the road into that mud, possibly onto the sidewalk. No curbs, exactly.
Well, let me hold that thought. Do we have something on that?
No, I'm just, I don't, unfortunately, no, so I'm not asking, I want to ask the engineers who put the picture up. Is that looking down Dutton or is that looking down Girard?
That's looking at Dutton towards
down
Girard.
Dutton.
Girard is at the corner.
Yeah, I have curbs in the front on Girard.
Okay.
The curb comes around the radius and stops on Dutton.
Yep.
The sidewalks will be on that side of Dutton Street, correct?
Sidewalk will run down this,
Yep.
this side here.
So are we looking at that? I'll go to our engineer, Bob. Are we looking at that, or
What was the
do we
width
need
on
to
the
look at
sidewalk?
that again?
It's
Four feet wide.
4 feet?
sidewalk.
Okay.
Curbs were not part of this project at all.
Okay. They just weren't put in or anything like that? They weren't required?
No, this was a sidewalk project, not a curbing project. That would, it would grow considerably in cost for the curbing. I mean, I guess, you know, just some thoughts about, I understand what this gentleman is saying. I think that, in all honesty, we're providing a location for pedestrians to travel outside of the roadway. Currently, they would be walking in the street.
Yes.
So if there's walkers there now, they're in the street. If we provide the sidewalk, 4 feet off the street, they're still in a better location than if they are in the street. And I understand that people may drive on that grass. I don't know, maybe that there's a number of things that we can try to build things to prevent people from doing things that they shouldn't do, but we all know that doesn't always work. In this particular case, this is another situation where, if we put the sidewalk in, if we move forward with this project, we can look at further improvements if we determine them to be necessary.
That's something that we would look at further down the line.
I mean, we look at things like that all the time. I mean, it's, if there's a need, we try to address the need. That's why we're here today.
I also have a tree on that corner. Is that a tree that would be removed?
From what I see on these particular plans, there's several trees.
Well, I got rid of a few in the back.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm planning on putting up a fence, which should be off of.
Off the right of way.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, definitely.
At this point, I think the tree would be removed.
That's all.
Anyone else coming up?
Good evening. My name is Suzette Malachi. I live at 148 Dutton Street. I'm not in favor of sidewalks. I'm in favor of curbs, but not sidewalks, because we don't have that many kids on our block, all walking through. There's, let's see, 16 down from Girard down to, I think it's Lieber, down to there's only 16 houses, I think it is, 16 or 15. And everybody has large lots, and as far as the lady that was talking about the kid getting hit by a car, I'm a crossing guard. I've been a crossing guard for 15 years, going on 16. And I'm out there every single day on Hamilton Street, and there's lots of kids that walk. they're walking on the sidewalk, but in the meantime, when they're walking on the sidewalk, they're also playing and pushing each other in the street. So when somebody says about the sidewalks, it's not a really sidewalk issue, it's the drivers and the kids, how they act on the street. So, like I said, I'm not in favor of the sidewalks, I'm in favor of the curbs, but not sidewalks, not in my area.
Does
I
anyone
just
else?
have a question on her comment. Do curbs and no sidewalks make any sense? Oh, I have to ask these guys.
So the streets that we're looking at right now are among others, so a large group of streets. This is just the first four in a number of streets that were identified in a 2003 survey of the area that was conducted by the Board of Education and the Police Department, and then was updated, and I think, 2012, 13 or 14. So the answer to your question, and the reason I say that is that no. These streets were identified as walking routes to the middle school, and they continue to be walking routes. And while I understand what Mrs. Malachi is talking about as far as the houses along Dutton Street connects to Levitt Drive, and Levitt Drive connects to Johnson Road, and it connects to a portion of Levitt that then this would allow for students to walk to the middle school on sidewalks from their home all the way to the school. Dutton connecting to Hillcrest, and then Hillcrest to the back of the middle school. It wasn't that these streets were just chosen randomly. Now, sidewalks certainly would keep people from driving on the grass and driving off the road, and it might add another level of protection to those students who are walking to the school, but no one shovels their grass in the winter, so it doesn't provide for a location for children to walk then. The plows plow the street along the edge of the roadway, and then that forces the children further out into the road. So that's one consideration. Likewise, generally, people don't walk on what would be deemed someone's front yard if there was no sidewalk there. So people walk in the street. So I don't think that curbs addresses the primary concern of this project, which was safe walking routes for children to get to school. That's why these streets were identified.
All right, thank you.
Can I say something? We need to move on with the other portion. I'm only 3 years removed from my child being in the public school system, my youngest. And if someone from the Board of Ed can verify, we can verify at a later date, there were specific routes that the kids had to walk. So you may not see children walking down your street because it's not a safe corridor for them to walk. My children had to walk 10 minutes out of the way because there was no sidewalk. I changed my work schedule to drive them to school because of no sidewalks. And I'm not saying I'm in favor or against at this moment. I'm just sharing with those that say there are no kids walking. It's not safe for them to walk, so the parents are driving them to school, or there's a route that has been identified by the school system or the district that they need to walk in order to get to school. And I was not in favor of my children walking down Churchill to get to Berry Street so they can get to the crossing guard at the corner of Franklin and Hamilton Street. It's not safe for them to cross Hamilton Street where Girard and Hillcrest and Wheeler were, but it's still 10 extra minutes because a route was identified that was the route that they had to walk. So you may not see kids walking down your street because it has not been identified as a walking corridor for them to walk. And it may be a better route for them to walk to get to school in a great amount of time or a less amount of time. So just because you don't see them, I think the other parent came up and can attest to that. They're driving their kids to school. And like I said, I actually changed my work schedule to drive my children to school because there was no safe place for them to walk.
And just to affirm so that was the project that was done to determine the safe routes to school. Our Traffic Safety Bureau and the Police Department worked with the Board of Education Transportation Department to determine those safe routes. And in fact, it was at that time that there was a prohibition from allowing children to walk on Belmar Street because it was deemed unsafe because of the lack of sidewalks. And that eliminated a number of walking routes for students due to the distance that they now had to walk to get to school.
Kevin Cameron, 357 Girard Avenue. From a safety point, I don't think no parent or a grandparent wants to go through what this young lady went through, losing her child. I agree with the sidewalks there. A question is, once they're installed, will the taxes go up? If they need to be repaired, are we responsible for it? To have to repair the sidewalk. If we have to do this for safety, because we don't want nobody to go through what we went through, what she went through, how do we bypass the taxes and the repairs of the sidewalk being the responsibility of the homeowner?
So, some very, very matter-of-fact answers. To answer your question, one, sidewalks are considered a property improvement, so the value of the sidewalks is included in your assessment. Yes, I'm not going to candy coat that. Two, you're responsible for maintenance of those sidewalks, and the township has an ordinance that if, when the time comes that there needs to be repairs made to the sidewalks, they're the responsibility of the property owner. Absolutely.
Yes, Dr. Chase.
Yes, sir.
I wonder why sidewalks should increase the value of the property if they bring those requirements on the property owner. To me, that would sound like a decrease in the value of a property because it's giving the owner increased responsibilities.
Well, the only thing I can say is that I'm the wrong person to pose that question to. You can pose it to the state legislature who sets the laws for our assessors in the assessing of properties. It is considered an improvement, and as an improvement, it has a value, and a value is added to the assessment. It's like any other improvement that you make to your property. It has a value, and so that value is included in your assessment. I don't make the rules, that's just what they are. And I can't undo that.
Just a small question. I know you can't answer it anyway. What is your belief? What type of increase are you talking? And I know you're not in the neighborhood of doing that.
No, so, I mean, it's a pretty matter-of-fact thing. So if there's 100 feet of frontage, Rob, what's the appropriate cost for an improvement of 100 feet of sidewalk?
$6,000 or $7,000.
So that's what it adds to the assessment. It's a simple value. I mean, we assess at 100% valuation. Your home is valued at what it's valued. There may be some depreciation of value. I'm not an assessor. If anyone has that question, I'd suggest that you come here on Thursday and ask the assessor. He'll be here to answer questions for another development, and you can ask him that question too. I don't have this. I don't have the specific answer to that, but that's the method by which we assess properties. It's based on a value.
I think they just about answered my question when you said my taxes going up. I'm on 38, my house is on 38 Belmar Street. I had it built special for my handicapped daughter, I think in 95. I moved there in 2000. 38 Belmar Street. House there. I have a handicapped daughter, I have a handicapped ramp in front of my house. And my property tax is not cheap. Already thinking about Georgia right now. Because if you send that sidewalk, go send me back to Georgia. So I'm telling you. So what I would like, I have a medical car, comes in and pick my daughter up, takes her out, doctors and things. It would be slower for the cars, for the medical cars to get out. They do come down Belmar Street pretty fast. Sometimes I got to get out there and kind of direct the traffic myself, said hold it, so the medical car can come out. But, when I first moved there, we did vote for sidewalks, but we didn't get it in 2000, just like this gentleman said. Because a lot of my neighbors moved because there's nowhere for to walk the dog, and I couldn't push my daughter down the
The
you know,
sidewalk.
the sidewalk and the wheelchair. So I just have the driveway and so so that's where you're talking about putting the sidewalk too? That part of 38 Belmar Street? How much of the trees are thing coming down on my property?
Ma'am, it looks like, is this your property here? Heading,
Yeah, right by that's it, because there's a hydrant right on the property line that needs to be relocated.
That's it. Yeah, that's, yeah.
but those trees should be able to be saved. Those are the ones that we would have evaluated by a tree expert, but I think they could be saved.
So the sidewalk would go, really, not far near where the hydrant is, right? You know, exactly, just to the right of the hydrant, but that hydrant needs to be relocated. So that's about how far off the road you're talking about the sidewalks. Kind of like in between the hydrant and that tree.
Ma'am, your name, please?
Mary Glover, Mrs. Glover.
Okay. You came up and told me where you lived, but not your
I
name.
didn't tell you,
Is that,
because I got thrown away when I heard about the tax. Right now I'm paying over 2,000 and a quarter, 2009 some quarter, and I'm telling you.
are you Sergeant Grover? I'm just looking at your coat.
No, no, my son is.
Oh, okay.
Jaeger, but no, not. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Just a quick question. Mr. Manager, can you estimate, can somebody do a calculation what $6,000 or $7,000 is going to mean in actual dollars of tax?
Bob, just real quick, just redoing that, I did it very quick in my head. It's more like 3,000,
Thank
like
you.
3,500.
I thought it seemed a little bit high.
I doubled it. It was
Oh, three, all
too
right.
fast.
So what does that mean in dollars and cents to these people, so they understand?
Yeah, so are you going to do the calculator, Mr. Mayor? Thank you.
I don't know, just an estimate. So it might not be every single house, but a general median.
Differences in
Yeah.
distance and.
Sure.
The mayor's still working on his numbers here.
About $80 per year.
I just want to make sure everybody heard that, $80. And maybe 100 and maybe 60, but let's take 80 as a median number.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Good evening. My name is Eric L. I live at 152 Dutton Street. I have a couple questions. If you look at the end of Dutton Street going towards Levitt, what are you going to do about the drainage systems there? That's the one question. And my second question is, are there already funds advocated for this project?
We voted on that, yes.
Okay, so,
Funds are there, but we wanted to come here to hear what you had to say.
all right, and what is the numbers on that project, if you mind us asking?
I'm sorry?
What is the price of that project to install all these sidewalks?
Bob?
We're just having a discussion about the fine. I'm going to give you an answer in 1 second.
Okay.
There's originally $750,000 appropriated, and that was 2 years ago. So we're anticipating that this project was designed so that would be the first phase based on estimates for the $750,000 capital project.
And what year was that you were stating?
The initial estimates were 2015. When we first began the discussions on this project, it was included in the 2016 capital budget last year, and so that $750,000 was, with a small buffer, we anticipated that these 4 streets could be done for that $750,000.
All right, and my next question is, will you be taking care of moving of mailboxes and so forth and putting them back?
So if there's a mailbox in the right-of-way, it'll have to be relocated, but obviously our contractor would relocate those mailboxes. The one issue is there are one or two properties that have fences that are clearly in the public right-of-way. Those fences will have to be removed, and we're not replacing those fences. That'll be the property owner's responsibility to do that.
Right. My next question is, were there funds advocated for the drainage systems?
Well, this is a sidewalk project, so I'm not quite sure what you anticipate as far as drainage is concerned.
If you look on Dutton Street going towards Levitt, at the end there, you have a drainage system that goes underneath the road.
No, I understand it, but this sidewalk would be built, if there's drainage where there's a pipe that needs to be installed, then the pipe would be installed underneath the sidewalk, but this is sidewalk.
No, but right now, that pipe is above ground.
Okay, but then it'll have to be low.
I'll pull up the picture, at the end towards, Levitt.
From Levitt Drive.
Yeah, that, Dutton going towards Levitt. You'll see at the end where there's a drainage system.
He's bringing the picture up now. Yeah, I know. I'm just looking where he's looking.
Move up further. Further. Keep moving up further. Past the white pickup truck. But right there. Right there is it's a drainage system there. How are you going to take
When
care
you
of
say
that?
there's a drainage, you're talking about that hole in the ground next to the stop sign?
Yes, that's a drainage
Right, but the sidewalk's going to be to the right of the stop sign. It's not going to be in the street. It's going to be off the street. So if you look to the right of the sidewalk,
but are you going to curve it around by the fire hydrant there and the drainage system that's there? See that right there? Right there is the drainage system. Right to the left of the side of the sign.
Is that one of the hydrants that's slated to be moved?
Right. All of that there is a drainage system.
Does that flood?
That hydrant's going to be
Yes.
used.
It floods. Do you think it would flood up on the sidewalks? It would.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. That's like if you're going to put a sidewalk, you need curbs.
Yeah.
And the drainage system has to be adjusted properly. I don't know if that's what my question was.
I'm not an engineer. I got three of them sitting next to me, but I don't know that I agree with you. The sidewalks will be where the grass is now. It'll be at the same grade as the grass is now. It should have no impact on the street itself.
But if you notice, at the end over there, that ground is higher than the grade is.
And so the sidewalk will be higher too.
The road is much higher than the ground itself is. I don't know if you could see that.
We'll make a note of
grades.
We have grades. We'll look at it.
That has to be addressed too. That's why I'm asking, was drainage.
Well, we're addressing the right people because they're the engineers.
Well, drainage also advocated, for that also, because that's a problem area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve Curlew again, 330 Girard. I'm responsible for this sidewalk that's going to be put basically in mud. So when that settles, I have to repair that. It sounds like it was a poor plan to begin with. How long do I have? How long am I covered before, if the sidewalk settles into the mud that it's going to be put into?
No, I think that it's inaccurate statement to say it's going to be put in mud.
Well,
So
I
I'm going to
live
talk
in
to
that
the
corner.
engineer. I'll let the engineer address it, but sidewalks don't just get built on top of dirt.
Sure.
There's a foundation underneath it. There's a base course of stone and all of that thing.
What about the 2 feet between that, though? Where the grass is.
Well, the grass won't settle.
There is no grass there. It is currently mud.
Rob?
Do you have another picture of that corner from the other angle? From the stop sign?
Let me try to find
where the fire hydrant is, facing the other way?
You're at 330?
Yes. Yeah, everything from that wood over is just pretty much always dirty, it's grass and, cars drive on it. I can't keep grass there.
You're referring to everything from the railroad tie to the street?
From the railroad tie to the street, which is essentially where the 2 feet is going to be. It's actually a little worse
You talking
farther
this area
back.
here?
You have one a little farther back.
Right away.
Yeah, pretty much where you see from where the wood starts there is all low-lying dirt that water pools up in. So if you're planning on putting a sidewalk next to that, I would imagine the sidewalk is going to dip down.
The sidewalk's going to be constructed in this area here. And in between the sidewalk and the street will be restored and topsoiled and seeded.
Okay.
So let me make sure we're clear. That area where you're saying that there's mud, and our engineer, Mr. Russo, you're saying what now?
Well, the sidewalk's going to be installed in this area here. So in between the sidewalk and the edge of pavement will be restored, will be topsoiled and seeded after the sidewalk is installed.
Okay. Now, you know that was 2 bites at the apple.
I hear you. But the question was how long is the sidewalk covered? You're saying it's my responsibility. There's got to be some kind of guarantee for the sidewalk.
And there's a 1-year performance bond that'll be placed on the contractor.
So after a year, if there's problems with the sidewalk, it's my responsibility.
So if this project goes forward and those sidewalks are built, I tell everyone now that's here, and we will tell everyone if they're built, that if in the first year you see that there are issues with the sidewalks, you need to bring them to our attention so we can get the contractor out to make the appropriate repairs.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm James Wang, 49 Belmar Street. Just wanted to clarify that the sidewalk is only going to be on the one side of Belmar?
That's correct.
Okay. That's all I had.
Any more questions that we have out there? One more. Another one who wants to have a second bite at the apple.
My name is James Simmons again, and I still live at 310 Hillcrest. I think that we have really forgotten about the reason we are here. I hear people talking about fences, trees, all those things can be replaced. One child, might not be mine, can't be replaced. And whoever child it is will give anything to have that child back. We are talking about children's safety here, not about taxes. If sidewalks are built, then the value of your property goes up. You can sell it for about $10 more. But we are talking about children's lives here. If we say one, just about did our job right. And if sidewalk saves them, then how much it costs really is not a problem. If we save one child's life, we have really forgot what we're here for. We're talking about the safety of our children. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no one coming forward, I'll entertain the proper motion.
Motion to close the public section.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed have the same right? Public session is closed. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Now that council has had an opportunity to hear the audience, I know we have asked questions along the way, but I certainly think that at this particular time, if there's anything that council wants to ask of our professionals here, or me, I'm not so professional as them, but I'll try. I think that it now would be good as a time as any to ask those questions of us.
I guess.
Oh, go ahead.
I just I'm trying to visualize in my mind as a homeowner, and I have a driveway, and I have yards, and I have fences, and I have trees, and I have a hydrant. Worst case scenario, how much disruption would that be to my property, and how long would it take to get all that work done for my one property?
So for the time frame, I'm going to turn down to the other end. But what I will say is this: so if you have things and they are on your property, and for some reason the contractors need to do something that affects those things, they will be restored. And one of the things, and I was kind of surprised I didn't hear this question because I was actually prepared with an answer for this. So there are a number of trees that need to be removed throughout the neighborhood to cut you know, and the answer to the question I thought I would get was, yes, we have the ability to replace trees that we remove. Now, granted, if your tree is this big around, we're not going to replace it with another tree this big around. We'll replace it with, so we have a shade tree commission and we have a shade tree trust. The purpose for that trust is developers pay us money when they cut down trees, and then we keep that money, and then we plant trees that are appropriate for the location. So street trees would be replacing those trees if the homeowner wanted it that were being removed. If your fence is in our public street right of way, it shouldn't have been there to begin with. And that means that we'll have to remove it to put these sidewalks in, and the owner will be responsible for either replacing the fence appropriately or not. And one gentleman asked about a sidewalk coming from their house. Many people have those sidewalks from their front porch out to the street. That will be treated in a way so that it'll now connect to the public sidewalk, and if there's something that's broken, we'll replace it. And that's our responsibility to do that. We're not going to rip someone's private property out and then not replace it appropriately. Driveways will have concrete aprons put in, whether, if there was an apron there that has to be, a driveway that has to be cut for the sidewalk to go across it, a new apron will be put in at the street, to accommodate the driveway. Those things are included in this plan.
So, I'm just trying to get a feel for the logistics. So, can I get in and out of my house? Can I get in and out of my driveway?
So that's why I'm going to let Rob should answer that.
There'll typically always be access, except when they pour the driveway apron, in which case you need time to let that set up, which could be a couple days up to a week, which you wouldn't be able to drive over the concrete. But besides that, you'll always have access to the house.
And whatever debris you put out there, you'll come and clean it
That's it. The properties will be restored, like we said earlier, with some of that section that the gentleman was asking about, the section between the sidewalk and the street. Topsoil, seed, and that's part of the restoration.
Just to want to follow up on that question, what we're saying is, if you had to lay down concrete with the apron,
yes,
in front of someone's house with the driveway,
yes,
you're saying how long would that take to?
I would recommend staying off it for a week. Some people go back on it 3 to 5 days, but I would recommend a week to not drive on it.
Okay.
So it can cure it.
I just have to park my car on the street.
On the street.
Find some place to park
Yes.
it. I didn't have a garage.
Thank you. Charles, you had a question, or you good?
No, I don't have any question.
Councilman Basanella.
Deputy Mayor Wright, thank you. So my concerns are about the safety of the process of construction and what we're left with after the construction. And by that I mean, you're going to have times that people's cars are going to, I don't know if you're going to do the aprons one at a time or collectively a bunch, and you don't need to dissect it all now, but I'm not saying you haven't thought of this. These are things that I'm of concern, so I want to throw it out there and not assume. So you have streets like Belmar and Girard and other ones where you're going to have people that normally never park their cars in the street, and their driveway is inaccessible. They're going to have to be parking on the street. So you're going to need to accommodate the safety concerns that come with that. And then the other thing is, I know it's well intended, but when we do construction, especially with outside contractors, and you have equipment, a lot of times they keep it near the streets or right where they're working. A lot of these streets don't have wonderful street lighting, and are just, some streets don't always have a lot of, obviously these are some narrow streets. We have to really, we have not, in my understanding, done a project like this in the area. That I recall, we've done stuff, but we really have to make sure that there's proper cones and lighting, because, if we're lucky, it sounds like there's going to be 3 months. I tend to think it's going to take more, but whatever it takes, we don't always have the best safety measures with cones and lighting, with equipment and other things going on. So I support the idea of this, but I have a lot of concerns about follow-up with safety. One other thing I'll throw out, and I'll be done. You have streets here that, lack of a better term, the right-of-ways and probably even parts of people's yards become parts of roadways on these corners. And this is in a lot of areas in the 4th and 5th Ward, especially areas where some of the people pointed out tonight. So I don't want to give kids or anybody a false sense of security where if they're coming around a corner where there's a sidewalk, whether it attaches to another sidewalk or it goes into grass, that without curbs, you have drivers that obviously will either drive or park in the right away, but more importantly, the corners where people turn. And we're putting a sidewalk right where a lot of times those are the front wheels and the bumpers of the cars that are turning. So we can't, I understand it's a sidewalk project, but we have to be mindful of the areas where there is a reasonable safety issue. Even if it doesn't appear on paper to an engineer or a planner, in all due respect, these are neighborhoods that have drivers and habits, whether they're good or bad habits, and we can say all we want what's supposed to be, but when you have corners that are basically become part of the roadway and you're going to put a sidewalk there, we got to be mindful of finding a solution, not dealing with it a year or two down the road. So I've spoken my piece. Thank you.
Councilman, I'm going to address both your concerns. One, I think we have a very, very, very capable traffic safety bureau in our police department that deals with that deals with all construction jobs and works with the engineering department whenever we have these jobs, whether they be water main installations or sidewalk installations or road repaving or what have you. And it's their responsibility to ensure that it complies with the federal manual for work zone safety. So I'm very confident in their abilities to ensure that these jobs will be handled safely, because it's their responsibility to do that, not the engineer, not the contractor, and not the engineering department. That's number one. Number two, I understand your concerns about corners and all of those things. The truth of the matter is, though, without the sidewalks, those children are in the street, which puts them in a far more dangerous position than if they're on a sidewalk. So while I can appreciate the concern about people that with the lack of curbs, that often they cut corners and what have you. And there's no doubt that happens. These pictures, you can see the gentleman is 100% accurate about his corner. I won't sit here and deny that doesn't happen. The truth of the matter is, though, that this puts children 6 feet further off the road than if they're in the street. And that's really what I think that the goal of this particular project was, to provide a safe location for people to walk rather than be in the traveled portion of the roadway, which is where they are now. And I guess, as we look forward to these types of projects, we can certainly look for the installation of curbs as well, that there'd be an anticipated doubling of the cost.
Okay, and I just follow up.
Clarify, we are putting curbs at the corners, at all the radiuses.
Okay, because that's what I was going to say. I've seen
the notes. I don't know if I mentioned.
I wanted to be clear. I wasn't saying you have to put curbs everywhere.
But at the radiuses, there will be curbs.
Those areas, I've seen it to where sometimes you'll have it and you'll taper it off for the exact safety reasons. So so you already have that in the plan.
Yes.
And my concern wasn't so much, our police do a wonderful job. We have construction of all sorts all over town. I never feel in danger. I'm talking about when the construction's shut down, whether it's for a weekend or something, and sometimes a cone gets moved, or, because I trust the police will be out there and all that will be done safely during construction.
Right, a nice job to set it up properly so it gets adhered to by the contractor. Trust me, I appreciate it, but my issue is that is something that is a forever difficult issue for the Traffic Bureau to deal with contractors. And so they remain diligent, and I trust that they will continue.
I trust that they will. Thank you.
Anyone else have a question here?
No, just a comment.
Mr. Prasad?
Yeah,
Councilman at large Prasad.
Yeah, no, I've been quiet because this August I'll complete 40 years in this town. I raised 2 children, and I live right now on Winston and Foxwood, so I'm about a mile away from Girard, and I know the neighborhood very well. In fact, sometimes I walk it. The only thing is that my kids were deemed walkers and had to walk from my home all the way to Connolly Road School. And luckily, thank God for crossing guards, they were there, and there were sidewalks. But every time I drive down Belmar or Girard, and I do very often, I think it's a tragedy waiting to happen. And I see the kids, especially in when they're off of school. And there were times when my kids were finishing up, at the high school, and they would take the late bus, and sometimes they'd say, I don't want to wait for the late bus, can you come and get me? So they would call me up, and I would go and get them. But at that time, again, it was always a hazard waiting to happen. So, no child is expendable. So please, this is what is the motivating factor, and that is the safety of our children. And, so that's really where, it's no money or any kind of, motivation other than the safety of our children. So that's really where I'm coming from. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prasad. I just have one question to, not a statement to his words. This is not about all children. This is about adults too. Some adults walk around the street for exercise.
I do.
This is about them also. So when they walk up and down the street and they're in the middle of the street, that's a concern because they can't run fast. They can't get out of the way fast. And the cars do drive up and down the street fast. So I like what you say, and I appreciate that. But we all need to come together and think about that. Where are we going to put our kids? What side of the street are we going to put them on? How are they going to get to school? How are we going to walk around the block and feel safe about ourselves? So it's two ways, children and adults. Questions down the other end?
Oh, I asked mine, thank you.
Questions down this end? Mr. Von Locker, questions from the engineers?
I think we're all done. I think that we've covered everything that the public has asked, and if there's no other questions of council, I don't believe that we have anything more from our table.
Do we have a timeline? We're going to really wait on PSE&G to move all the poles before.
So I'm going to let Rob address that because he's better suited to answer that.
We haven't heard back from PSE&G yet, so we're awaiting that.
Do you think it'll happen in 2017?
I don't know. I hope so, but we'll have to wait to hear back from them.
But if we did this project, we would be doing it during the summer months? We wouldn't be doing it in the winter?
So based on water and concrete, it can't begin before April 15th, and it can't go beyond what we're saying, November 1st now? Is that DOT's
I wouldn't go past that.
recommendations? Wouldn't go. So that's the time frame for concrete work to take place. I don't know that there's any particular advantage or disadvantage based on time of year otherwise as it relates to schools or things like that. This isn't about road closings or the like. I mean, ideally, you'd like to do these jobs in the summer because there are still children walking to school during the school year. What we're going to do now based on, and Rob and Tom and I first got to sit down with this now with the completed plans, I don't know, about 2 weeks ago. And so the idea of moving utility poles is the biggest hurdle that we have. Now, that doesn't mean that there can't be work that takes place without those poles being moved, but we're not going to move forward with the actual bidding of the project until we at least get a commitment from Public Service as to them moving these poles. So that's really the critical item that needs to be resolved before we go ahead and move forward. And so now it's kind of on all of us here at this table to pressure Public Service to give us an answer and a timetable.
But my only concern is that we don't want to start the project and then stop the project. And
No,
then
agreed.
start
That's,
the
and that's why
project
we want
and
an
stop
answer
the
from public
project.
service and a commitment. No, you're absolutely right. That, and like I said, we could do it piecemeal, but that's not the preferred method. And it also then becomes more costly because then we're doing, rather than one contract where there's some economy of scale for a bidder to bid lower, if we break it down into smaller contracts, it'll increase the price.
And it will also interfere and inconvenience the residents.
Absolutely.
I have one more. I see the president of the BOE here. Do you have any comment in the back? Okay, he's good. I just have one thing to say about this. Several months ago, I was turning around the corner of Berry Street, and I almost hit a kid, a group of them. And they weren't the kids with the, with the deer in the headlights. It was me. I looked up and was like, wow, slammed on the brakes, and there it was, kids in the middle of the street. My wife would tell you she's in the back. I thought about that. If it could happen to me, could it happen to someone else? Township manager will tell you. I came running in and said, hey, we got to put sidewalks on Berry Street. That's the only thing that came out of my mouth. Everyone up here will know. That's the only thing that will come out of my mouth, sidewalks. I think it keeps everyone safe. As a matter of fact, I know it keeps everyone safe. And to, I think it was the lady or the gentleman here that said the kids walk in the street no matter what. That might be true. Some kids just might. But I think they'll hit the sidewalks now. I don't know. But at least it's there for them to walk on, to keep safe, to get out the street. So as far as that little piece is concerned, I'm 100% in the tank for sidewalks. 100%. Because I almost hit a kid. And I can't say I'm sorry for it. The parent don't want to hear it. I didn't see him. The parent don't want to hear it. All they want to know is, why'd you hit my kid? And that's the bottom line to it. If you hit an adult, what are they going to say? Why'd you hit my father? Why'd you hit my mother? Not seeing them is not going to play. It's, we should have put them on the sidewalk. We had the opportunity to put them on the sidewalk. 30 years ago, I wasn't here. I wasn't here. I don't think anybody else was here on this council 30 years ago. She's shaking her head.
No, not that long ago, you were not here.
But
20 years ago.
I
was here 20 years ago.
I was here 46 years ago.
All right, you guys got me.
On these streets.
You got me beat on that one. We've come to the point where we've blown up as a township. I lived on Fuller Street until they built the apartment street across the street from me. I never had a curb. Never had a curb. They built the apartment across the street. They put in the street the way it should have been put in. I lost 2 feet. I lost 2 feet because I was in the right of way. Yeah, I got a brand new mailbox. And the reason I knew I was 2 feet over is because I went down the block to where the church was, Macedonia Church. And they're on the same side. They are still 2 feet in the street. Now, I'm more than sure if they came down, someone comes down to redo the street, they're going to get pushed back. I'm a big proponent of sidewalks. I can't get them the way I want them, but we're going to get them where we can that makes sense for everyone that walks down the street. And that's it for me. Oh, by the way, yes, Berry Street, just to let you know, the manager wasn't going astray and our engineers. Bob, what'd you tell me about the sidewalks? What side did they have to go on?
On yours, they went on the side coming out of onto Hamilton Street, and I put them on the right side of the road to get to the crossing at Franklin Boulevard to get them across the street to the middle school, so that they didn't have to cross Berry Street. And it also was on the outside of the curve when you get down towards Camner Avenue down there. So.
And how long has this project. How long has this been sitting around, traffic studying, everything of that nature?
I mean, so Berry Street was one of the streets that was on that list that goes back to when we worked with the Board of Ed on safe routes to school back then. That was so the first time we discussed this was '03. Well, and we did Berry Street. I was manager, so it was like 2013 we did Berry Street. Right, yeah.
But what about the whole project about the high school, now middle school? How long has that been floating around?
You mean the streets, the sidewalks, 2003. We did, that's when the police department and the Board of Education talked about where there were missing links for sidewalks.
So from 2003 up until 2017, this project has just been laying out there, no one has touched it. Is that correct?
No, right. There's just been a list of streets.
I want to thank the council for even looking at this, because this has been sitting here and no one has brought it forward to make it happen. And I just want to thank the council here for once again looking at an issue, solving the issue, and moving Franklin forward. Any other comment?
Yeah. I was keeping track of the speakers, and I think it came out.
Oh, no, he's writing it down, so yes, he was definitely keeping track.
6 for and 6 against, but the passion was clearly on the for side, and I think that's right, and I think those of you who no longer have children in the schools, you have to think about, even where there are not children now, there may be children in the future, and we have to think of them. And I also like to say, I look for the possibility of a continuous sidewalk along Hamilton Street from Franklin Boulevard to DeMott Lane, so that if somebody feels impelled to walk to the municipal building, they can do so safely. We have bits and pieces of sidewalk along that stretch, but I hope someday we can put them all together and have a continuous sidewalk there. And I think there are some other neighborhoods where sidewalks may be needed to help the kids either walk to school or at least walk to the bus stops where they're picked up by the bus. There's even that concern in Kingston, where the kids are picked up on the corner of Shaw and Union. But I understand we're going to have a trail put around the Kingston Green, and that perhaps will solve that problem. So I'm for this.
Thank you, Councilman Chase. Any other comments from the council?
Just want to thank the people that came out. We appreciate your input and your concerns. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for coming out. Thank you for listening, and more importantly, thank you for your input.
One more thing.
Yes,
the one other thing I meant to say is, I hope we can look into this question of the assessments and do anything that we can to minimize the tax impact on the homeowners, because it does seem as if there's been a consideration of the effect of the solid sidewalk being put in, but not the responsibilities that the manager has told us come with it. And I think that really is a balancing of the improvement, quote unquote, value of the assessments, because really it benefits broadly everyone on the street. It's primarily not just the individual homes.
Once again,
I have many thoughts running through my head right now, and the biggest thought I have is that we have thousands of homeowners that have assessments right now to include the sidewalks in front of their houses. So that's just the way the system works. If there's lots of houses in Franklin right now who have sidewalks, and that's part of the assessment of their properties.
And we realize that's our responsibility, it's our sidewalks.
And that's exactly. So,
Can I make a motion to adjourn?
So, before we make the motion to adjourn, I look at 9 of you, and you obviously realize that I take my direction from you 9. And so I do need some direction as to if we're going to move forward with this project at this particular time. The next step in this project would be to continue to pursue public service with the relocation of the poles, and then begin to prepare bid specifications once we have a commitment from public service. So if that is the wish of council, we will continue to move forward with this project.
I'll entertain a motion at this point to continue the project of the sidewalks.
So moved.
Seconded.
It's been moved and properly second to move forward with the sidewalks.
I think
Do we want to vote?
a voice vote is
A
probably
voice vote?
sufficient for me. I don't need an individual vote.
All in favor?
Say it again? Oh. Voice vote. All in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you.
I'll also entertain a motion for an adjournment.
So moved.
Seconded.
No, I was just looking at everyone. All in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed have the same right? Meeting adjourned.